NBC4 is taking you behind the scenes of the Ohio Bureau of Criminal Investigation's high-tech crime lab. Tuesday, we showed you how a state-of-the-art machine can identify dangerous substances on the scene while keeping officers safe. Tonight, NBC4's Jamie Ostroff shows us how a computer program developed at OSU is helping to solve cold cases. Jamie?
Yes, and figuring out what someone looked like when they were alive is a tricky process, especially when all you have to go by is a skull that was found somewhere. And sometimes detectives don't even have an entire skull to use. But thanks to an unlikely partnership between investigators and animators, BCI is making breakthroughs in cases that have gone unsolved for years. Do you recognize this man? His clothing and skeletal remains were found by an oil well site near Canton in 2020. Today, he is known as John Doe number 3312, and investigators have a much better chance of learning his actual name than in years past.
Whenever we have unidentified human remains found and we still can't ID them through DNA or dental records, scars, marks, tattoos, they can come to me for a facial reconstruction as long as we have a skull.
This is Sam Molnar. She's an intelligence analyst and forensic artist for BCI. Her job is to figure out what someone looked like when they were alive.
I like to do art as a kid, and I watched way too many crime shows as a kid, and I always wanted to learn how to do this.
Using her knowledge of anatomy and clues from the scene,
she was recovered in size small clothing, so I can guesstimate that she was probably very petite, and so that's something that I can take into consideration for the reconstruction.
Molnar sculpts muscles and facial features on top of 3D printed copies of the skulls that are recovered. Getting that copy used to take a week or more.
We used to take it to a hospital, get a CT scan done of it, and that would generate a 3D image, and then we could print that on a 3D printer.
But thanks to a new computer program created by a former video game designer and a 3D animator at OSU.
This is one of those processes where we can be like, oh, we need something right now? Well, we can do that today.
Immersive designer Dean Hensley and graphics researcher Jeremy Patterson figured out how to create 3D scans of just about any object in a matter of minutes, simply by taking a lot of pictures of it and running it through their program. All you need is an iPhone.
Traditionally, this took specialized equipment, equipment that was expensive. You had to specifically stage an object to go through this, and the object itself mattered.
Those scans go to Amy Spears at OSU's Digital Union for 3D printing, a process that takes much less time than it used to.
If you think about what's on the inside of a skull, inside of a mouth, things like that, that aren't necessary for her to have for the outer skull to sculpt on. So she doesn't have to go over to the hospital, get that time scheduled, all of that, and we get a file that's a lot simpler to work with because it doesn't have all those extra things inside that we don't need.
No one on the OSU team predicted they'd be involved in forensics.
This is the kind of thing that happens when you get, all of these really passionate, smart people together from all these different areas and let them loose and figure out, what can and what we should do.
But they agree. The work has paid off.
I know some of the ones that we've printed that have been identified have people who've been unidentified for decades.
So these are some of the faces behind me that still haven't been identified. I have posted details on John Doe 3312 and these other cases that BCI is hoping you can help solve at NBC4i.com.